Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. We are back with a roster update video, and this should be a pretty big one. Our standard structure here will look at any of the recent marquees and unlocks. Then progress towards major projects. Then we're looking at crons, Datacrons, Omicrons. We've been doing a ton of Datacron work from this last conquest. And then we will be addressing any weaknesses and looking at ships, pilots, raid-related things. That's going to be fairly minimal with this particular video. The last update, Boomadier, was added to the game. What we do here is we immediately bring all of these characters up to Gear 11. I hoard all this stuff in advance to do this. I think any player should be playing this way. This is going to help you out in Conquest. This is going to help you out in Galactic Challenges. A lot of these teams tend to be very functional even at Gear 11 and low stars, and I do suspect the Gungans are going to be very useful at these levels. I'm expecting some Bad Batch levels of usefulness, which was extremely high. 3 stars Gear 11 Bad Batch was enough to beat Relic squads, certain Relic squads. Like, you could use Gear 11 Bad Batch to take down Relic Grievous squads. Gungans, we don't know what a full squad's going to do yet, but they're very promising. Now we're going to drop down the Omega on this. For whatever reason, I like to do these last abilities in the video. And in terms of the Zeta, we're going to... am I going to hold off on that? You know what? I'm going to save a Zeta. We're a little bit lower on Zetas. I don't really want to go too low. Plus, I need to add Zetas to like Mando Bo. She's coming up. We're going to need to be hoarding some for Queen Amidala. I don't want to go too low. We just dropped a bunch for Bane and Lord Vader. And this is the type of conditional kind of Zeta. Well, it's not conditional, but the effect of it is limited, and we don't know how valuable that is going to be. I mean, technically, maybe up against a Watt, you're going to want it, but this might be more of a nice to have. Lately, I've been putting these on right away. I'm going to hold off on this one. Before we start dropping more gear and resources, I just want to establish the context of my hoard. I'll put screenshots of this on the Discord if you want to look at it a little bit more in detail. Really, what matters here are the colors. Just gives you an idea of what I'm working on and what I'm not working on. We're in pretty good position because we've been hoarding so much lately. I have reset what some of these columns mean. Right now, this is Mando. This is all the Mando Bo requirements. That is going to be used up pretty soon. This is what I need for Gungans based on what we know right now, but it also includes the next Gungan tank with the relic materials since those are standardized across any other character. This relics column has been overhauled with new characters I would like to be targeting, not on any accelerated schedule. And then this major is just for Queen Amidala, what we're going to need to be hoarding in advance. It's Lord Vader, it's Darth Bane, and it's going to be Mando Bo. Those kinds of high endgame destination kind of content characters, their gear is being earmarked within this column. Now this relics column, I will show what I'm looking at, but I'm willing to push any and all of these. And with these relics, I'm looking to boost a few things. So I want to get Imperial Super Commando up to relics. Imperial Probe Droid I would like to take to relics because I do have the Probe Droid Datacron, and I'm thinking for 5v5 I may want to utilize that Datacron on an Afra squad. We may not do that though. Also looking to boost Afra with a stronger Vader and a stronger BT1. General Grievous with the addition of Stab, it feels like a good time to be increasing relics on Grievous. And then Omega is just so I can round out a Bad Batch squad. Now that I have Lord Vader, I have the relic Bad Batch to just be able to use a Datacron. Would be nice, but we may also get Echo, so I might hold off just earmarking it, planning for it, keeping that budgeted. Even though those are the characters we are looking at within this relics column, I'm actually not going to do any of those relics. I'm going to do a different one entirely after the last Grand Arena. It's become pretty clear that there's one particular relic that I really shouldn't be delaying anymore because it's actively hurting me by not having that relic. Over the past couple weeks, we have had a couple major unlocks that we've been working on incrementally, and now we're going to keep pushing them along a little bit further. I like to do Gear 11 testing, so I had stopped with Vader at this level because I like to see if the final tiers of those events are possible at Gear 11 or Gear 12. In the case of Vader, absolutely. We'll put out a video about it some point in the future. But that testing is now done, and we have the Galactic Legend Ultimate event that I would like to get some extra currency for to get those Omicron materials. So we are going to actively do that right now. We're just going to go straight up to Relic 7 so that we can participate within that event. I've already done throughout the day all the other GLs that I have, but this adds a 6th GL to generate more currency, and I will max out my refreshes on it. I am a lot lower on crystals than I like to be. I try to be around 20k, but after Conquest, after how hard I went on Datacrons, like I did 50s and 100s pretty much every day on this most recent Conquest, which I usually don't do. I try to limit to just the 50s unless I'm like bored on some particular day. That's usually more than enough. But I wanted these Datacrons this time, and some of these relics are going to be very much Datacron motivated. All right, let's drop this final one on Vader. So that is our Relic 7. We'll take him further along at a future date, but this is good enough for now. We'll deal with mods on my own time, but we will drop this Zeta. There's no reason to put that Zeta on before you're at Relic, so I just give it a week, save it. And this one, it's a GL we're going to put it on, but honestly, I feel skippable. I'm sure there's a team or two where it probably does matter. But if he was a different character, if he wasn't a GL level character, I would definitely do some testing to see if I cared about that Zeta enough. And the next major recent unlock is, of course, Darth Bane. We did our Gear 11 testing, and I was very happy with it. Now, of course, you're not going to do the same things. You're not going to beat the Leias or beat the Lord Vaders or whatever with a Gear 11 Bane, but he was more than helpful. He absolutely boosted what Sith Eternal Emperor was capable of. I used him twice up against Leia. Couldn't beat Leia, but absolutely set me up for a much easier cleanup, which I took the chance on because of just, I was going up against some very difficult defenses last week, and being able to two-shot a Leia with a Sith Eternal Emperor and Bane, that just gave me a lot more flexibility with my other offensive options in clearing my opponent's defenses. Not ideal because a Leia still requires a pretty strong cleanup, and 3v3 in general requires a stronger cleanup, but it allowed me to find a way that was workable. Otherwise, I may have had some tough times. I do think I'm going to stop at Relic 5 though, just for the week. He's obviously a character you're going to want to go up to Relic 7 or Relic 8, but what I try to do here is show what players can do at incremental levels, because you can go to almost any channel, every player's taken them to Relic 7, Relic 8s, Relic 9s, and you can see that gameplay. But for a lot of us, especially as free-to-play players, we may not always have the resources on hand to take characters up right away. So I like to show intermediate gameplay. And with Darth Bane, I haven't budgeted more than Relic 5 right now, and we're dropping a ton of resources right now. Next up is our major project progress, and what you can see here is we're done with Kelleran, which really means we can take the next step on all of these characters because we are now ready for Mando Bo. We just got to drop this gear on. We will take Bam up to Relic 7. Do I have all this stuff set? You know what I just realized? We've been mute this entire time, which is fine. Don't touch those wires, cat. So Relic 7 on Bam, I just held off for no real reason. I just like to hold off. Then Paz here, take up to Relics, and we've just been hoarding this gear for weeks to months. This is why I like to do my homework in advance, so that I can plan this out and we can just drop it all at once. Also, for the Mandos in particular, I wanted to show what these characters could do at Gear 11, which is very limited. These are characters you don't really want to keep at this level. Under like a Bo-Katan lead, not a Mandalore Bo lead, they're just not that good. You could beat like weaker things, but these are not characters you are going to want to be utilizing unless you have them at higher levels of investment. But I am excited to see what we can do with them next. I do have a Grogu Kron waiting, so we can get a month of 5v5 play out of these characters. Although we also have a Mando Bo Kron waiting, so really we'll use the Grogu Kron for a week. And then, because Mando Bo is arriving in 9 days, so we will have her unlocked fairly shortly. And it is also why, well, we'll talk about that later in the video. Right now, let's take Grogu up. The control stick image, which I was not a fan of this development in the show. Not so much Grogu, really it's Emperor Zurg, the Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, the bag. I did not like that. It's a very tropey, kind of very comic booky kind of development in a very unthoughtful way that I expect more from Filoni, even though maybe at this point I shouldn't be. But you can even see in this recent season of Bad Batch, like the writing's pretty good. Like those first 3 episodes of this last season of Bad Batch are excellent. And then it shows like how good Filoni can be when like he's hitting all his marks. I know. I feel like he's spread too thin or something because this idea was just lazy. I didn't like it. All right, this next one is what I'm most excited for. Caloran Beg. I love this character. Huge boost to any Qui-Gon squad, even at 3 stars. Just put him on a squad if you're not already using Caloran. Excellent character. Very happy with him. We will quickly take him up to Relics, and I do have the Caloran Datacron ready and waiting. And we'll go through the Datacrons. I got a lot of re-rolling that I need to do on them, but I don't have the credits. We're going to spread out those re-rolls over the next several weeks until Conquest shows up again. I guess not several weeks, 2 weeks until Conquest shows up again. But I am very happy to be done with this. I did get done with Caloran a little bit faster, partly because I was like 30 shards behind at one point. I was asking players in the Discord where their farms were, and I was behind. And I felt like it because my drops had been really bad with Caloran. And I generally don't pay attention to drops. I don't care. But there was just a couple days in a row I was just getting like 1 or 0 shards a day after doing 2 refreshes. Oh my god, I used up all of those? Alright, we're going to have to get some of these. I've got stuff hoarded. I used the raid currency, the Mark II currency to grab a couple of these. I wasn't even going to show this on video, but then I had a thought. Is now that I'm going to scavenge some of these materials, what I can now do, and why part of the reason why I have this spreadsheet here, is I can look at those materials and see what I have the highest surplus of, which is the wrist, and I can just use a bunch of those and not worry about impacting any longer term farms. Because I try not to use these gear pieces. I have them earmarked to be able to use them, but I try not to use them. And I said, grabbed way more than I needed. I only need 10. Now let's do that. See, I thought I had enough of those pieces. I guess we did much more than I was anticipating today. So now we're done with Caloran. We are Mando Bo ready. We will grab our Omicron reward. We got a good amount of those. I'm going to do mods later. But it's nice to be done with another major project. I think I got a little distracted. With Caloran, what I was saying about the refreshes, I started doing a 100 crystal refresh to try and get caught up with Caloran, and then I just kept pushing. I just decided I wanted to be done, and I was hoping to be ready for this Grand Arena this week of Grand Arena, and it turned out we were able to hit that mark just earlier today, so very close. So we won't go too deep into this, but we do have all of these crons, and this is a testament to 2 things. One, this last conquest, it's pretty easy if you have the right roster, and I was able to finish all of those feats pretty quickly. Like, we've put out a couple videos. What I try and do is I try to minimize cheesing, although there are 2 feats you have to cheese in order to beat this thing, but I try and finish all of my feats during the initial playthrough, which was almost entirely possible your first pass through the sectors, which is what made this conquest so easy. Circling back, very minimally needed, and now that I have 7 stars and relics on a number of the characters related to some of these feats, it's going to be even easier next time. I'm not going to do the 100 crystal refreshes next time because we are both good on Datacrons and in a pretty healthy place with this conquest. I've got all the Datacrons I want. I do need to re-roll a number of these abilities. God, I wish I could just click through, like if they had an arrow like in the mod screen. Like, I need to re-roll some of this stuff. Like, I'm happy with the level 3. No, maybe I'm not happy with the level 3. And the level 6 I'm not happy with. But this one is getting a little expensive, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. I will use some of those materials. Sidious, this one I'd like to re-roll the level 6. Calcestis, I'm considering re-rolling this level 6 for the anti-revive level 6 ability, because then going up against a Melgus and Talon squad, I can just take out Melgus. But I do really like this level 6 ability as well. With Caloran, I tried to re-roll this ability, but I also wanted a bunch of protection, so I had rolled, actually before I even re-rolled the level 3 or level 6 abilities, I rolled a couple of these to get more protection, because Caloran's damage is based off of his protection, so there is a reason to go for those. But level 6 I will reroll. I'll get more of these abilities later. It's just shard shop currency. I'm healthy on that. I do want that bonus offense for this. And then you see 2 mace crons. One of these is actually for mace. This one here I'll use for mace. I was thinking of maybe an anti-revive cron and see if we could use that on a Star Killer squad to make getting through Swallow a little bit easier. Or even now that there's that Ray cron that Ray revives on, it might be useful. But that really depends on mace taking a turn and taking out the character at all, because it's only Jedi allies where that would count. So this extra offense just might be more desirable. This other mace cron, this is really intended for JML. I'm going to be re-rolling these abilities, hoping to get a bunch of protection for JML, but we are out of currency. And then Sith Assassin is whatever. That's just more because I have a Relic. We all have a Relic Sith Assassin for the Leviathan, so it's a character we can add a cron to. So let's do it. And then we got Trench. This is a good cron. This was great the first time around. Using it again. And I've got a lot of materials hoarded. As I get more currency from the Datacron store, I'll be working on these gradually. Earlier in the video, I teased that it's time to address one of my major account weaknesses, and that is my Sith trio. Now, we're not going to do all the Sith trio this week, and I've been pretty happy with what they can do at Gear 12, but there are certain counters that don't work all that well all the time, and there's a little bit of risk, and we'll see the order at which I post these videos. This video may come out first, but I was using my Traya squad up against a Seer Juna Malico squad, and it didn't go great. And what I desperately need is for my Nihilist to be able to take a punch, because right now my Nihilist can just be knocked out by a Malicos AoE, and that's just not going to cut it. So we are taking Nihilist up. We'll go to Relic 3, I guess, just for a little bit of flexibility on Datacrons. If I throw them into another squad, probably isn't going to happen. We will do Traya next. I don't know when we will address it. It might be a few weeks, because I gotta now reestablish a lot of my hoard on all the signal data. You can see we are now in double digits on those materials, which is not where I like to be. With Mando Bo coming out in a little over a week, we're not going to spend any more of our resources. We actually need to reaccumulate a lot of resources to minimize the time between unlocking Bo and actually be able to use her at her full extent, especially because we have a Datacron ready and waiting for her. But I think what we'll do to wrap up is I did update this set of presets where I keep track of a few of the characters that I actively want to work on, either to increase relics on, improve them in other ways, or even to take them up into relics. So we have like the GLs or GL related squad characters like Kat and Curzantin that I want to take to higher levels, major event characters that I would like to take to Relic 8 or higher, and some of the like Conquest exclusive or other more exclusive characters who would also benefit from higher relics. Then we see the deficits within the Sith characters, some characters for major counters like Mando and Grief I've been needing forever. Grief really should be a priority for me. Some Jedi characters I would like to work on. Would like to finish off some of the droids, particularly a Grievous squad that I've just been coasting on forever. Pilots, some of these are also overlap with Maul. And then as we get deeper in here, this becomes less and less of a concern, more and more of a luxury. Just round out certain squads like Cal Kestis and Ahsoka so that I can have a Datacron on a Seer Juna squad. It's an excellent squad. I should be utilizing it. Characters like Tusken Warrior, I've got a decent Tusken squad. I'm not going to fully relic those characters, but I should have a relic Tusken Warrior so that that squad can be as dangerous and as useful as possible. I'm like, we've got certain levels of investment on characters like Saw. Even a relic on him would get me in a little bit of better position to utilize some of them. Brood Alpha is a very valuable character in a lot of counters. So just working on all these marginal conditions that are in accumulation are going to slowly improve the overall quality of my roster. And from there, we're ready to wrap up. A lot of new weaponry for the next week of Grand Arena. We are very close to Kyber 1. I think we're 60 skill rating away. I think with this new level of investment, we're ready to push towards K1 and finally hit there. Finally get through that threshold. We were about like 110 skill rating away this last week. Usually what happens is we go 0-3. I went 2-1. So I think we can finally break through that barrier and accomplish that goal, but we'll have to see what happens. Thank you for watching. Be excellent to each other, everybody. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.